All right, delivering major transportation projects is one of the greatest challenges and opportunities facing our region right here in South Florida, right? As we heard from our last panel discussion, there's a lot of things that have to line up correctly for our projects to move forward. There are delay costs, of course, time and trust, and the momentum needed to get Miami-Dade's growing demands to move forward when it comes to transportation. So, of course, with that in mind, we have a very, very special keynote speaker that will be speaking to us today, of course. And I'd like to welcome back to the stage to announce our keynote speaker, TPO Vice Chairman Eric Diaz-Padrón, to introduce him.
All right. Secretary Perdue was appointed by our Governor, Ron DeSantis, on April 7th, 2022, to lead 6,200 team members responsible for planning and delivering a safe and viable transportation system serving 22 million residents and 135 million visitors, while overseeing a $65 billion work program. He is carrying out the bold vision of Governor Ron DeSantis and Florida legislature through the Moving Florida Forward Infrastructure Initiative. With Florida's population growth, this historic investment in Florida's transportation network will ease congestion, improve safety, and ensure resiliency of the transportation network and enhance supply chain across the state. In addition, Secretary Perdue has made it a mission to develop and implement innovative technology solutions throughout Florida's transportation network, as seen through the opening of SunTracks, as well as Florida's leading role in integrating the advanced air mobility industry. Secretary Perdue received his bachelor's degree in civil engineering from the Citadel, the Military College of South Carolina. Please join me in welcoming Florida Department of Transportation Secretary Jared Perdue to the stage.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning. All right. Thank you for the kind introduction. I didn't hear any oohs and ahs, though, so I guess you didn't mention the fact that I have 5 daughters. Oh. I always like to start out just, for those of you who don't know me, just to get to know me a little bit better. A few fun facts. One is an engineer by trade. Tremendous honor to be in this role. Never imagined I would be serving as the secretary. It's been great to work under the governor's leadership. But I'm an engineer by trade, but I'm also a self-proclaimed attorney because I have an opinion. So I got a little chuckle there. Something else I am is a self-proclaimed mechanic. I'm not very good at it, and my children make fun of me because every time I work on our vehicles, I break something. But our family vehicle is a 2000 model Ford Excursion. It's a diesel, and it just rolled over 591,000 miles. So, proud of that. So, anyways, a little bit about me. I'm going to talk to you this morning about several things. First of all, tremendous honor to be here. This is a great transportation summit. Really appreciate Miami-Dade, TPO, and Eileen putting this on. Really been building a lot of great partnerships over the years, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. But you can't solve problems without relationships and without partnerships, and we've been working to forge those every single day. We continue old friendships, we create new ones. And I know even there's representation from the MPOAC here, which, Myra Uribe is somebody I've known for a long time. We built a relationship many years ago, and she's been working really hard to kind of elevate the profile of all of the MPOs across the state. And I think that work is going great because we need all this thought leadership. We need the momentum. We need the power of partnerships and relationships to get things done. And so I'm going to talk to you a little bit today about, who we are, what we do, how special it is to be in Florida and be part of the transportation industry. And I'm going to talk about our budget and a lot of the strategic focus areas that we have going into the future. And so I want to start by giving context. I like to do this for our own internal team, but also for the industry as a whole, also for anybody that we serve, our communities, and everybody we work with, because we are unique here in Florida. We are actually a nationwide leader in transportation. But not only are we a nationwide leader, we're also a global leader. Other countries look to Florida for how to do transportation infrastructure when it comes to policy, when it comes to planning, when it comes to funding and finance and revenues, when it comes to actual project delivery. I've been on several international trade missions I'll talk about in a little while, and everywhere I go it's so resounding, please tell us how Florida does transportation infrastructure. We want to emulate it. And this is something very, very special about Florida. And so I'm going to highlight a few of those areas. And one, here in Florida, we embrace every mode of transportation, all right? And so the state participates in funding for every single mode. I'm going to start with space. We actually have the busiest spaceport in the entire world. Last year we had over 90 launches. This year we're on pace to have over 150 launches. That would not be possible without the investments, the transportation investments from FDOT in partnership with a lot of other funding sources, but primarily, order of magnitude, the funding we invest in space attracts exponentially more in private investment. And so the spaceport's grown. Kennedy Space Center has grown. Blue Origin located their rocket manufacturing facility there for the New Glenn. SpaceX recently announced they're going to relocate their Starship operation. And so you imagine, this year we're at 150 launches. 5 years from now, who knows what it's going to be? We have to continue growing the capacity of that spaceport. But it is actually the busiest in the world. It's also the best geographic location. And so that was given to us by God, but what are we going to do with it, right? We also have the 3 largest cruise ports in the world. One of them is right here in Miami Seaport, yes. I think Heidi's probably in the room, but I think with the opening of the new cruise terminal, maybe you have the biggest or one of the biggest in the world, correct? So we're really proud of that. We were a partner in that with the Seaport. And the cruise industry is a huge part of our economy. And all in all, our seaport industry and the investments we make contribute about $200 billion to Florida's economy. So it's important we keep investing in those. Airports, we have the second highest passenger boardings in the U.S., and we're the only state with 4 large hub commercial airports. Now, we have a lot of commercial airports. We're the only state that has 4 large hub. Miami is one of those, Miami International. We continue making the right investments and growing in the right way. It won't be long, we'll probably have the highest passenger boardings in the country here in the state of Florida. And this is also a big part of our place in the world, our place in the country. Not only the passenger, but also the cargo activity that goes through our airports has a substantial impact on the economy. Now, let's talk about roads and bridges for a second. This is also a place where we lead. We have over 12,000 miles on the state highway system, many, many, many more on the local system, and we partner with our locals to help maintain and deliver all of the projects that are needed for that. However, here's something I want to highlight, and this is new. We have the most mega projects in our work program in FDOT history. And as a matter of fact, a mega project is worth $500 million or more for one project. As a matter of fact, right now we have 3 projects under construction that have a value of close to $1 billion. This is a substantial landmark. If you look at our upcoming work plan, there's another 7 mega projects planned in the next 2 to 3 years. All right, so we're delivering major infrastructure, doing it efficiently, and really working to bring the congestion relief that's needed. All right, so we're a leader. So what does that look like? I want to talk a little bit about our budget. So this current year budget, very, very robust. This is the 3rd year in a row we've been right around that $15 billion mark. It really is the envy of most other states, with the exception of a few. There's a few other states that have a budget the size of ours, but I would put us up against anyone in terms of how much of that funding actually goes to product, goes to delivering real hard, fast infrastructure. $13.7 billion of that is going to our work program, and that's the production of projects. So it's P&E, design, planning, right-of-way, and also construction. So we're really proud of that. And I'm going to highlight a few things here that I think are really cool. One is just as probably 10 years ago, our budget was around $8-9 million a year. So we've gone from that level all the way to $15 billion in just a few years. We've reduced the number of positions we have at DOT by 500. So our budget has gone up by more than 50%. Our number of positions has gone down by 500. We're just under 6,000 employees now, and our operating budget has stayed right at $1 billion. So we've increased the amount of product we're delivering, we've reduced the number of positions we have, and we have not asked for more in operating budget. Now, what does that mean? We're getting more efficient. We're using innovation. We're using technology to deliver more to our communities faster and making that a better use of taxpayer dollars. You can see the breakdown here of the different things we're investing in our portfolio. We have a very diverse portfolio. I want to highlight the resurfacing number real quick, $1.5 billion. That's just 1 year, all right? And so this is something we do in Florida. It's very, very important. And we like to even talk to all of our modal partners about this because it sets us apart. Maintenance and preservation before new. If you build something, if you have an asset that's in your portfolio, you should never neglect the maintenance of that asset to do something new. This is very, very important. The legislature requires this of DOT and probably put that in. I don't know when it was put into law. We're required to do that. And so every year we sit down, we build our budget based on the funding available. We fund all of the data-driven maintenance and preservation before we do anything new. So if you look to the future, let's say one day revenues go down, there's not as much available, the revenues that are available are going to go to maintenance and preservation first. You have to maintain what you have. If you drive our roads, you quickly realize it makes a huge difference. Go drive in some of the other states and see. We touch almost every single one of our roads every 12 to 15 years for resurfacing. It's like clockwork. This is so important. Also, with bridges, bridges are so important. It's a big safety concern. And so, repair, rehab, replacement, we fund it off the top before we do anything new. This is very, very important. Highway construction, $5.4 billion. I just want to point out with this, you're like $15 billion, is $5.4 really a lot of construction? Actually, yes, it is, because if you look at our current portfolio of projects we're managing, we have 12,000 active contracts that have a total value of $22 billion. So that's what's underway already. And so just from this one budget year, we're going to take another $5.4 billion and add to that portfolio. So it's actually a very big construction program. It takes a lot of work and collaboration and partnership with our partners and with the industry to strategically place these projects and plan them regionally so that we have the labor and the materials and everything we need to deliver. And you can see all the other things we're investing in. Safety's always been a top priority for us. The last 3 years, we've taken a little bit different approach with safety enhancements. Now, it's in every project, but we have taken it upon ourselves to really find a way to impact crash numbers. We've been investing for years, and we see that the crash statistics go up and down. We can't figure out, are we even impacting that number? They go up 1 year, they go down another year. So how do we really make a difference? And so we've started investing in statewide safety initiatives where we look at a countermeasure and say, let's fund this statewide on all of our roads. So we're doing ground and rumble strips for lane departure. We're doing median crossover prevention for all of our freeways. We're doing wrong way driving technology for all of our major interchanges where we have wrong way driving issues. And so we've begun implementing this over the last several years, and it's a multi-year effort, but we really think we're going to be able to impact those crash numbers. Again, the goal is to get to zero fatalities. It's lofty, but we're going to keep working towards that. All right, looking at our 5-year capital plan, we're approaching the $70 billion mark for 5 years. This is just a huge program. $70 billion will be a new landmark for us. The one thing I want to highlight about this that's very important, and it's another thing that sets us apart, is we are predominantly state funded here in Florida. So even with the federal government shutdown that's ongoing, when people ask, is it going to impact you? Well, eventually there's a runway where it could, because we are using federal funds for our program, but because we're predominantly state funded, we're able to float a lot of the ongoing efforts with the state revenues coming into the trust fund. And so this puts us in a very strong, solvent financial posture, and it's one that's given us a lot of strength when we're delivering infrastructure over the years. Now, that federal funding is actually very important, and I'm going to talk about reauthorization because that 25% is leveraging billions of infrastructure. And so we have a vested interest here in Florida about what that looks like. So I want to talk real quick before I talk federal reauthorization about a last legislative session. So typically, you know, session's supposed to last 60 days. I think I heard last night the total number for last session was 105 days. So it was long and laborious, I would say. There was a lot of discussions, a lot of debate. And I wanted to show you a stat because it was kind of eye-opening for me when I looked at it. Almost 2,000 bills were filed and only 269 passed. That's a ratio of 13%. So that's a very low passage rate, low success rate. And so I'm excited and proud and happy that the bill, Senate Bill 1662, that had a lot of transportation policy in it, made it to the finish line. And there's several things I want to highlight about this, but I think this shows you the focus, the priority the legislature has on transportation. It's one of the reasons we're so successful, because year in and year out, the state legislature continues to prioritize and invest in transportation. So first thing I'm gonna talk about, and this is probably the most exciting topic for me, is this thing called advanced air mobility. So this was part of the policy bill, and it essentially put a stake in the ground and made advanced air mobility a new mode of transportation. What is this? This is essentially the age of flying cars. There's a lot of acronyms involved with this industry and everything that's happening, and I could spout off all those acronyms, but you know what? You'd be like, okay, what does that mean? It's a flying car, essentially. So it's exciting. So we're talking the Jetsons, we're talking, you know, Fifth Element, Bruce Willis movie. You know, you could essentially 5, 10, 15 years, have hundreds, if not thousands of these things flying around, moving people and moving cargo. What is it? It's an electrically powered vehicle that takes off vertically and flies horizontally. Very, very efficient, easy to navigate in tight urban areas. And right now, there's a lot of prototypes being developed. There's billions of market capital that's been raised for these prototypes. And you can look at the capital that's been raised and know it's a real thing that's going to happen. All right, this is not just a fad. And so what do we want to do in Florida? So we kind of came up with a strategy. And what is that strategy? Well, if it's going to be a new mode, and it's going to relieve congestion, and it's going to help us with regional connectivity and be private, what should our focus be? Speed to market and profitability. The faster they're able to start flying and earning revenue, the faster they become profitable, the faster it's going to be a huge benefit to Florida residents. And so we immediately started rolling out a plan, and I'm going to give you, there's like 4 big steps here. One is we started developing and planning this thing that we envision called the aerial highway network. And so we've got to take roads and take it to the sky. When you get a lot of these vehicles flying, it's going to be probably too much of a load for conventional air traffic control. General aviation will be, you know, the rules of the air. It's kind of like the Wild West. So how are you going to manage this if there's these things flying around? It's going to take technology, hardware, software. It's going to take some sort of prescriptive approach with a public infrastructure standpoint. And so how do you do that? We don't have all the answers. We need to start planning for that. And so we've started developing this idea of an aerial highway network. We also, in order to have a new mode and a new vehicle that's going to carry people, everybody needs to know it's safe. So they need a place to test their technology that is safe. So we made the decision to expand our state-of-the-art autonomous testing facility, SunTrax in Auburndale, and build a brand new research and development center for advanced air mobility. And we're going to have the nation's first aerial test track is what we're calling it. So it's going to be a technology testing area. It's going to be multidimensional, but we're calling it aerial test track. So we're taking the concept of transportation on land to the sky. We are already establishing policies and procedures. We've already rolled out guidelines for local governments when it comes to zoning with vertiports, and we are beginning to plan, and we're going to build out the nation's first system or network of public infrastructure vertiports. And this is very important. We have to work with the industry because we got to know where's going to be your starting place, your ending place for you to earn revenues, and how can we support you with public infrastructure. So this is a very exciting topic. We are on the cusp of having it. I'll say I'm hearing from some of the industry that the first prototypes may be approved for commercial use by FAA sometime in calendar year 2026. So it's just around the corner. And again, if you look at the capital they've raised, this is a real thing that is coming to the marketplace. So we're very excited about it. Something else that came out of session in Senate Bill 1662 is the Florida Transportation Research Institute. This is a legacy initiative, and I'm just going to real quick tell you basically what it is. We are a global leader in transportation. We do not have a nationally, globally recognized transportation research center here in Florida. That's the goal of this. If we're doing the best with infrastructure, we should be doing the best with research to support that. And so we want to start that. This is what we're going to do with the Research Institute. It basically established a consortium of some of the most engaged universities in transportation research, UCF, USF, FIU, and UF, and Indian River State College is part of that. And so we're going to bring this consortium together. And what we want to do is extract the talent, the resources, the skill sets out of one single university, bring them together, and kind of build a very strong research portfolio. And the end goal is, we want to conduct transformational research that changes the landscape of transportation for many years to come. All right, what else came out of legislative session? This is another key feature. And so workforce development obviously has become a big challenge in the state of Florida. It's something our legislature is very focused on. We have had to take a new approach in transportation. We do not have enough people to meet the demands over the next 10 years. We have to do a better job of bringing people to this industry from, positions that require professional degrees to skilled labor to finance people. It doesn't matter. We need every profession in transportation, and we need to figure out how to attract these people. So we need to start at very young ages, but high school, vocational school, state college system, universities, how are we going to bring people to our industry and really build that portfolio of labor? This is what the Florida Transportation Academy is supposed to do. It gives us authorities and ability to invest in workforce as a standalone initiative instead of it just being an attachment to individual projects we're doing. Now, this is going to be huge, and we're going to use it as an umbrella to do a lot of innovative things. The one I'm going to highlight, because it's one I'm personally passionate about, is the partnership we're going to create with Department of Corrections. And so we used to have inmate labor crews. We don't really use them a lot anymore, but they actually helped us maintain our roads. There was a funding issue several years ago. They went away. We want to bring that concept back, but we want to bring it back as a skilled labor training program under the umbrella of this Transportation Academy, and actually train inmates that are going to be getting out of jail in the near future in a skill that will help them in transportation. They will get training hours. They'll actually produce and work. They'll get training hours, and at the end of the program, they'll get a certificate, and that certificate will guarantee them a job in our industry. The rest is up to them. But at a minimum, they will have a job, they'll be skilled, and they'll be able to work in the transportation industry, and we can play a role and have a big part in the reduction of recidivism, which our legislature cares a lot about it. They're always trying to solve that problem. And so we're trying to innovate and think, how can we use workforce development to help with that? This is a great opportunity. And so this is kind of the concept. It's an umbrella. We're going to use it to innovate and really start to invest in workforce in a different way. All right, I'm going to just touch on federal reauthorization real quick. So I mentioned this earlier. This is very important. We're using the 25% federal funds to leverage billions in infrastructure. We have been operating under the current authorization known as IIJA. A lot of things change from traditional federal transportation funding in IIJA, some for the better, some not for the better. And so we as a state decided, and we as FDOT even, but we're sharing this with all of our partners, that, if we truly are a leader in the nation and a global leader, we should be having a voice, we should have influence over what that next authorization looks like. And so we're going to be advocating for some very basic principles that we believe need to be returned to federal transportation funding. One good thing about IIJA is they brought record funding. Okay, there's some cons to that though, because a lot of the new funding went to discretionary grants. There's big challenges with discretionary grants. One is they're at the discretion of the administration. And so it just so happens that under IIJA, even though we're the third largest state in the country, if you look at all of the grant awards that came to either FDOT or local governments, we were second to last out of all 50 states. And it's not for lack of trying. We've been submitting applications. All of our local governments have been submitting applications. This is a huge challenge with discretionary grants. We believe that the bulk of the funding needs to go back to formula. Send the money back to where you collected it from and let each individual state deliver the programs that they've worked with their communities to develop. So that's one big. One other challenge with discretionary grants, it costs money to pursue them. You have to set a match aside for years while you find out, and that money's not delivering anything. And then once you get a grant awarded, it takes sometimes up to 2 years to actually get your hands on the money. So if you applied for a grant today, 4 years from now, you finally get to build the project, the cost has already gone up 20% and you no longer have the funding to build it. It is a very inefficient way to do transportation infrastructure, all right? So we're going to be advocating for a return to more traditional formula-based funds and consolidation of, programs that kind of nickel and dime the funding. Let the states deliver the programs they've developed. Let the local communities deliver the programs they've developed. So we're going to be very engaged, already have been. Secretary Duffy had an all-state DOT roundtable in D.C. I attended that with many of my counterparts. Truly there was 32 CEOs there. It was bipartisan. Transportation is bipartisan. And we all agreed on these high-level core principles for transportation because we're the ones actually delivering the projects every day, and we see what the most efficient way to do that is. So that authorization is supposed to occur in 2026, hopefully by the fall of next calendar year. We're a global leader. I've been on several trade missions many times. Your local seaport and airport here have been there. And I'll tell you, there is so much wealth and economic growth in Florida. We are becoming a powerhouse across the entire world. And the amount of investment we're attracting from other countries has exponentially increased these last few years. And people are beginning to view Florida as the United States is the global market. People are beginning to view Florida as the gateway to the United States. So how can we capitalize on that? Let's take our companies that are Florida bred, Florida residents, let's help them expand into other markets, and then let's also go to other markets and attract them to, and their investment to Florida. Bring your manufacturing, bring your growth, create jobs for Floridians, high-paying jobs. We've seen exponential growth these last few years in several industries, but maritime is a big one, and the trade. I mean, we're on the cusp of potentially having some direct trade routes with some of the European countries, and with aerospace, the growth is unimaginable of what is coming to Florida. And so, really proud of the relationships we've built here. The two most recent missions that I've been on, one was to the Paris Air Show, and we made a stop in France, Germany, and the United Kingdom. Very technology-focused, very aerospace-focused. But then we went to Italy in September with a delegation of our seaports to Genoa for the boat show there. And they actually asked me to participate in their opening ceremony. It was a big deal for them. It was the first time they ever had an American actually speak as part of their opening ceremony. And we had a delegation of seaports there because we were having our second working group meeting. And so for those of you who don't know, on a trade mission previous to this one, we actually signed our seaports, DOT and Commerce signed an agreement with all of the Italian seaports to enter into a working group and begin to collaborate on ideas for direct trade and how we get more efficient at our seaports and really start that collaboration. It has been such a remarkable relationship. So we had our second working group at this Genoa boat show. We're going to have our third working group meeting at the boat show here in Miami. So we're really excited about that and getting geared up for that. But these partnerships that we're forging are extremely good for Florida's economy. And what I view my role as secretary is I want to help Florida businesses grow. I want to attract more businesses to Florida to create jobs for Floridians. And I think I've seen exponential growth in that over these last few years. And so I started with the power partnerships. I'm going to show a few highlights of some things we're doing down here in South Florida. Before I do that, I want to talk about the power partnerships. It truly is one of the most important things to me. Our executive team talks about this all the time. If you have a problem or a challenge in front of you, it's unlikely you're going to be able to solve it by yourself. And it's unlikely that you're going to be able to solve it if you don't have good relationships with the people around you. And so this is first and foremost, above all else. You first build a relationship. You build a relationship of trust. You create a strong partnership. And then the sky is truly the limit. The more people we get aligned behind a common vision and all pulling in the same direction, the more successful we're going to be. And this is my goal in transportation. I want to inspire all of you to get behind that vision so we can bring more resources and build more infrastructure and make things better for our communities. I've seen it happen time and time again in Florida. And, I think we have a lot of energy and momentum down here in South Florida, and I want to capitalize on that for sure. And so what does it mean to serve our communities? I just want to give a few examples. You're going to be familiar with a few of these. I actually flew over this interchange this morning as the sun was rising. We were at a low altitude. It's remarkable to see how much work has already happened on this project. Our District 6 Secretary, Danny Iglesias, is in the room, and a lot of his team appreciate the hard work that they're doing. Also, former District Secretary Stacy Miller's in here. This Golden Glades Interchange project is a legacy project for South Florida. It is one of those mega projects. It's got a value close to $1 billion, and they are moving fast. They're on track for completion in 2031, and I think the original time on that project was probably 7 or 8 years duration. We think they might actually finish a couple of years ahead of schedule. So, not to put too much pressure on the team, Danny, but and so this is a new philosophy we've embraced. The faster you finish, the more will be available to do projects in the future. And so let's not just set a time and sit back and chill and let things go the way they go. Let's continue to innovate and push and find ways to advance things every single day. And this is something we've fully embraced. This is one you're very familiar with. I'm not going to talk about it finishing ahead of schedule because that's definitely not happening. And I'm okay with self-deprecation sometimes. However, this is a remarkable project, and I would venture to say it's the most complicated project we've ever built. A lot of the complication not only comes from how tight the area is and how little room there is to build this major infrastructure, but also with the aesthetic treatment that makes it very, very complicated. And so it's understandable that it's taken a little bit longer than originally planned, but this is something the community valued and really wanted. These arch structures are highly complex. A third of them are officially complete right now, and I've been down on the ground to look at them. It is truly like just this most remarkable thing, and it's already starting to have a huge impact on the Miami skyline. So we're really excited about this. Again, it's a very complicated project. We have thousands of people, coming together, collaborating, working to make this a success, and so I'm really proud of what the team is doing there, and it's going to be a huge improvement for downtown Miami. And I will say this, and I know Danny's taking this very seriously in District 6. One of the things that we have talked about philosophically is let's not just talk about the overall project and finishing. Let's look at the milestones where communities can actually see visible, tangible congestion relief along the project. Let's try to accelerate some of those. Yes, the overall project might take a long time, but maybe we can get some of those milestones finished sooner. And so his team is looking at that every day. Then obviously the Okeechobee Road Reconstruction and widening. The second segment is expected to be finished this November. This is a big deal for South Florida, and hopefully we'll be able to make it all the way through this corridor by 2036. It's something that's been a priority for a very long time in South Florida, so we're really proud of that. Anyways, just wanted to give you a few examples and really appreciate the opportunity to be here. Thank you for all of you do and the partnerships that we have. And, I always love coming to this event. There's just so much energy in South Florida right now, and I feel like we have a lot of momentum that we need to capitalize on. So thank you for that.
At this time, could I have the executive director, any TPO members? I think we have school member Alonso. I think we have member Pages, and any other TPO member, please come to the stage. And while they're coming up, I just want to thank you and tell you, I think everyone sees how innovative you are and what you're doing for our state and frankly our country when it comes to even the space stuff, but just how well you manage such a complex job and how accessible you maintain yourself. It's truly great to see.
I'm always nervous when a gift is being handed out in South Florida. You never know. Oh, that's amazing. Thank you. Thank you. Wow.
Government appointees.
Everybody pages.